A bit of a different video today, guys. This is Toby Jones Talks Music, and we're going to be looking at my t-shirt collection, my music t-shirt collection, that is. I love a good music t-shirt, and the reason for that is I guess you can support your tribe a little bit like sport, football, and all the rest of it, but also to kind of show a little bit of your character. And there are so many great album artworks that it feels nice to be wearing one of them. So without any further ado, I'm going to be going through all of my t-shirt collection. Some of them you can see a little bit of a preview of behind me, but I'm going to switch to me standing up, showing off this collection. Let's see how this goes. This should be interesting. Let's start with AC/DC, the band that I think I've got the most t-shirts of. It'd be interesting to see how many, and there are a few that are missing here because there are a few in the wash, etc., but there wouldn't be a perfect time to get all of these t-shirts because I've always got either a racing t-shirt on. So on the back of that is the MotoGP calendar for this year, just in case I forget, even though I might have to turn my head 180 degrees to see it. I've either got a racing one or a music t-shirt on, usually when I'm around the house. So the latest one which I've been bought for my birthday is a Highway to Hell t-shirt, which looks just fantastic. This was from Vinted. It was £10, which is fairly reasonable, and it's still got the tags on it, so that is a very nice buy. I'm not bothered about it being second-hand at all, but you can see the colours on this are really, really good. That's the only shame about some of these t-shirts. When they've been washed a lot, the colour starts to go out of some of these, which is a bit of a shame. Bit of a throwback with this second one. This is the first t-shirt, AC/DC t-shirt I've had. I've got a couple of these which I'll show, which I've just shoved these in a drawer somewhere because it was like when I was like 10 or 11. Maybe after doing this video I might part ways with them because you can get a bit of money for these online. But this is for 9 to 10 years, so I don't think I'd quite fit in it now. AC/DC, are you ready? Are you ready to rock? Really nice t-shirt, that is. Next up, from an AC/DC point of view, a couple of generic ones, if you like. So we've got a grey colour High Voltage Rock and Roll, established 1973. And another black one, AC/DC High Voltage. And there are a couple of these that have got more stories about them than others. So some of them I'll probably brush over quite quickly. Some of them I'll tell more stories about. So we've got AC/DC. Might just be a logo to some of you that aren't familiar with the band, but this is the artwork for Power Up. This was, I think these were in Asda, I've got a good idea of. So me and my dad both had one of these. I don't think they were that expensive either, but really nice one of the album Power Up. So we're counting, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 5, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 so far. As I say, there are a couple in the wash, and there are a couple, these are mostly in order, but there are some of them that are a little bit out of order because they are too small for me. And there's somewhere else in my room, and I cannot cope with putting them all back in order and then putting them all back. So some of these are out of order. We're up to 5 so far. Number 6 was when I went to see them 10 years ago this year. AC/DC, Manchester or Bust. Their 2016 World Tour, Rock or Bust, Manchester, 9th of June at the Etihad Stadium. That was one of the best nights of my life. That was absolutely excellent. And then we have here, I know there's definitely another one to come, so that'll come later on. AC/DC, Back in Black. Enough said. I also have an AC/DC Back in Black hoodie, which I know is definitely in the wash at the moment, so that puts up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The hoodie is 8. And then there's 2 more which I'll show you later, which will bring us up to 10. 10 AC/DC t-shirts. Is that enough? This next pile is pretty much everything else. It's a free-for-all for all of this. So first off, we have a Bryan Adams t-shirt, which was the 30th anniversary tour, 30 years of Reckless. Unfortunately, I didn't get a ticket for that tour. This was it was a bit of a guilt trip, actually, because I think my aunt and uncle bought my mum and dad tickets for this show and didn't know I was a Bryan Adams fan and didn't buy me a ticket, which was okay because we went to the concert a couple of years after, which I've got another t-shirt for that. So my dad decided to buy this for me as a bit of a kind of guilt trip. So this is the 30th anniversary tour of Reckless, that great album from 1984. Unfortunately, though, what I wore when I was 13 or 14 doesn't quite fit me these days. And the same can be said of this Kiss t-shirt, which is a 10 to 11 years, so slightly older than the AC/DC one. This was about the time when I saw Kiss for the first time in 2010 when I was 9, my first ever gig at the LG Arena it was then. for the Sonic Boom Over Europe tour. So before we carry on, we've got a couple of just generic ones, really nice generic ones. Music Makes Me Feel Alive, that's a good one. We've got one from the Record Collector magazine, Serious About Music, that's a good one. And then Total Hypocrite, as you might guess I am. Enjoy Vinyl, it's the real thing, because as you know I've got a load of CDs behind me. But Enjoy CD, it's the real thing, doesn't quite sound as glamorous as Enjoy Vinyl does it somehow. Next up, after all that, I'm going to have to find somewhere to put all of these. I can't just dump them on the floor, can I? That would be terrible. I'm just going to have to keep them by my side and see how many I can hold. We've got the King, Mr. Presley. So you can see from a distance that is obviously Elvis, but as we bring it closer, you can see in here you've got all large and small names of some of his songs. I thought that was a really well designed t-shirt. I've had that for about 7 or 8 years now, ever since I got into the King back in 2016, I want to say, I think. Long time ago. Next one, I've got 2 Judas Priest t-shirts. This was from, I want to say this was off eBay, and this was really cheap second hand, £7 or £8. So this is of Killing Machine, of course, or Hellbent for Leather for all of you stateside. There'll be another Priest t-shirt, but that'll be in the later segment because that's one of the ones I wore recently and needs to go in the wash. It was already in the washing basket, but I've fumbled through and got it because for completeness for this video, or as much completeness as we can possibly get. Back onto Kiss. A charity shop buy. I mean, look at this. This is what I wore to their latest concert I saw, the End of the Road tour in 2019. Really nice, soft, long sleeve t-shirt. I feel like a fashion YouTuber all of a sudden. This is really strange. And on the back, picture of Gene, Paul, Peter and Ace, who sadly recently left us. A couple of more Kiss t-shirts in the offing. We have Kiss, that one with the 4 guys on it as well. Then we have 2 Destroyer era t-shirts. This was another one from Asda, I believe, that was fairly inexpensive. So what I like about these t-shirts is that some of them you'll see a little bit in the one I'm going to show next. The design doesn't take up much of the t-shirt, but this one definitely does with the 4 guys from the Destroyer era. I'm going to have to put these back, I think. So next up is that Destroyer t-shirt. Very similar to the one I had before, but this was bought before that generic Kiss one. You can see the design doesn't take up quite as much of the t-shirt on this one, but it's still a very nice Kiss t-shirt. So that's where the Kiss t-shirts end. So is that 4 Kiss t-shirts and 1 old one? We have Destroyer, the big Destroyer one, and then the generic one, and then the white jumpery one, fleecy jumpery kind of long sleeve t-shirt. Then we have Lemmy and the Gang. Had to have one of these at some point. I'll talk a little bit if I remember about bands, artists that I want a t-shirt of and haven't got them yet. So Motorhead, nice generic Motorhead one. Again, these were fairly cheap from eBay, £7 or £8. Bought my dad one as well. So because we're a similar size, when we've both worn them, who knows whose is whose. I've got a Neil Diamond one. This was really cheap. This was about £4, I think. This is a really nice t-shirt. So feel a bit of a fraud because this was from a tour I didn't go to or had nothing to do with. At least with the Reckless one, I kind of had mitigating circumstances. But really nice picture of Neil from all throughout his career. So you can see the Hot August Night pose. You've got more Love at the Greek. The later days, of course. Very much the earlier days in the 60s, probably the 80s, 90s sort of era. And then that's a very early one as well, isn't it, on the corner there. But again, Neil through the years on the back of this. And I think, yeah, mostly American dates, but a couple of UK dates, Birmingham and London. 2017 Neil Diamond. Unfortunately, Neil, one of the artists that I never got to see, was a little bit too late on that bandwagon. We next come to another band that I've got quite a lot of. I wonder if I've got 10 Pink Floyd t-shirts. Let's find out on that score. Bit of a Christmas jumpery kind of design. Christmas t-shirt, which I've worn a couple of times. The Dark Side of the Moon Prison with Santa's sleigh on one side and the reindeers coming out the other end. That's a really nice design. This counts as a Floyd t-shirt, doesn't it? Just a picture of Mr. Gilmour on it. David Gilmour from the band, of course. And then we have a couple of Dark Side of the Moon influenced t-shirts. So that's currently Is that just a couple at the moment? Yeah, so we've got two, haven't we? This is the third one. Pink Floyd with Dark Side of the Moon on it. And then on the back, the Prism and, of course, the Dark Side of the Moon. Another Dark Side. I think that's probably the most imitable Pink Floyd t-shirt. Pink Floyd with, again, the four guys on it. I think probably of all the Dark Side ones I've got, this is my favourite. But this is it's a medium, but I'm between a medium and a large. This is a little bit small, unfortunately, on me these days, which is a little bit of a shame. This one's definitely too small, even though it is a medium. Probably just in terms of height-wise, not weight. Pink Floyd Animals. Now, to my surprise, I've actually matched AC/DC and Pink Floyd. I've got 10 AC/DC and 10 Pink Floyd. I've got another 2 t-shirts here, and then there's a hoodie which I'll show you a little bit later on. So first up, we've got the nice Division Bell artwork. Really like that t-shirt. And then another one, I think this was from probably like a supermarket chain, somewhere like TK Maxx in the UK. A white Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. And you've got to think, well, The Wall's your favourite album, so why haven't you got a Wall t-shirt? That is all to come in a little bit in the other section. And I'll explain why it's in the other section shortly, because there's not that many to go now, because we are up to P. So, next up we've got my one and only, I don't know why, well, yeah, we'll stick with it. My one and only Queen t-shirt, really nice emblem of the band. Followed by my only Police t-shirt. This was a Christmas present a couple of years ago for their brilliant Synchronicity album. Both nice white t-shirts there. And then one that's definitely missing, I've got Thin Lizzy, which is just a white t-shirt with Finn and Lizzy. If I've got a picture of me in that t-shirt, I might put it up there somewhere. We then come to the last pile, which is the other stuff. Other stuff or needs to go in the wash. I've rattled through this stuff quite quickly, haven't I? But there's actually a lot here, isn't there? Quite a lot here. These are a couple that definitely need to go in the wash, because I wore this one the other day. Judas Priest, Stained Class, my favourite Priest album. Really nice circular design, similar to how Highway to Hell was a nice... I like that nice circle in the middle of the t-shirt. Again, doesn't take up the whole t-shirt, but that circular thing in the middle is really nice. And then we've also got, which I had last Christmas, which I'm chuffed with, wore this last week, well, a couple of days ago. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. I've got to wear that t-shirt when I do a Rust in Peace album discussion, haven't I? Brilliant t-shirt that is. So that brings us on to the rest of the stuff, which I think is stuff that I either don't really wear or is too small for me. So first off, we've got a Wall, Pink Floyd The Wall influenced hoodie. And the reason I'm not a fan of this, it's quite a soft material for a hoodie. I like more of a comfortable... At the end of the day, if you're wearing a hoodie, you want to be warm, don't you? This is quite a sort of cool feeling hoodie. Not in the way of, oh, it's interesting or it's snazzy. It is nice, I like the design, but I don't reach for it that often because it's not very warm. It might be something I might wear towards the summer possibly, but I don't go for this that often. So that is the 10th Pink Floyd related item. And then we've got the other stuff that's just too small for me these days, but I can't bring to get rid of. So I talked earlier about Bryan Adams. This is from the Get Up tour in 2016, the first time I saw Bryan Adams. It was on the 30th of April at the Genting Arena, one of the first concerts in the Get Up tour. Good album that is. I got that for one of those, because you know what it's like, you get to Christmas and oh, what do you want? And I think, well, an album I haven't got in the collection which I quite enjoy is Get Up by Bryan Adams. So again, I've got the t-shirt from that. Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak. This was another one that was on Facebook at one point that was very cheap. I want to say it's maybe £5 at most. And I've got a lot of wear out of this, but I'll use the excuse of it shrunk in the wash, because the last time I tried to put it on, I thought, well, this is a little bit tight for me now. But a really nice grey t-shirt, and the artwork almost blends into the t-shirt, not quite like something like Destroyer, where it's kind of just plonked in there. Really nice. I like that t-shirt, but unfortunately might have seen my last days of that. The first one, talking about that sort of idea, that might have seen the last days of that t-shirt. The first one I showed, the Highway to Hell t-shirt, I actually did have one, but that was way too small for me now. So it was kind of time to buy another one. So maybe I'll get to it. I mean, fortunately, I'm the age of 25 now. So hopefully nothing much is going to change height or weight-wise that much. So these t-shirts should be good for some years to come. But obviously some of the earlier ones, like that Get Up tour, is going to be a little bit of a struggle now. Back to AC/DC before the final one. So we have a AC/DC Black Ice, and also an AC/DC Rock or Bust. Again, I think both of these are smalls, aren't they? Yeah, that's a small. And the Black Ice one is also a small. So a little bit small for me these days. And then another one which I must have got a really strange time in my life, because for maybe 12 months this fit really nicely, and then after that it just didn't fit at all. But it was the only one they'd got on eBay at the time. Really snazzy dark cover of Rainbow's Difficult to Cure. I really like this t-shirt, but again, it is just too small for me now, unfortunately, to wear. There's a few that aren't in there that I'd definitely like to get. I'd like to get a Scorpions t-shirt. I should have really bought one, really. When I went to see the Love at First Sting tour a couple of years ago, they were selling the t-shirts. I think they were about £40, and me being a complete tightwad, I thought, no, I'm not paying that. So I didn't pay that for that, but regret it a little bit now. I wish I could do. I really like a Bruce Springsteen t-shirt, ideally for the Nebraska album, but those t-shirts are kind of few and far between. When you search for them on the likes of Vinted, they don't really come up all that often, unfortunately, and it's more sort of born in the USA. But there's a nice River Tour one which I've seen, but that's quite expensive. The same as an AC/DC If You Want Blood. Quite expensive. I think it was something like £40, and again, it was one of those when the artwork was kind of just almost squared into it rather than fitting into the picture itself. In terms of other artists I'd like to get, I think Scorpions is definitely the main one, probably for that Love at First Sting tour, which I haven't got. Bruce as well. Maybe a George Michael t-shirt, possibly. But apart from that, there might be someone I'm missing, but I think that's probably about it. I've probably got enough, haven't I? I mean, I've got 10 AC/DC, 10 Pink Floyd, and then other artists interspliced between. So I'd say probably as a hazard, as a guess, I've probably got 25 which are wearable. Some of them, as I said, aren't. They're a little bit too small now. But a lot of music t-shirts, and certainly enough to keep me going for a month. And I've talked about before how I'm quite a sport fan. And there's probably another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 or 12 music t-shirt, football t-shirts, motorsport t-shirts, etc. So really, I could go a month and a half, and well, I could probably actually have a rotation, because by the time all this stuff is washed, then I've got it. Other stuff to add quickly to the t-shirt and other stuff collection. I've got a Scorpions pin there, you can see, and to hand I've got a Pink Floyd The Wall coaster, because everybody needs one of them. I've also got ones for Dark Side, Animals, and the Division Bell. My dad bought, I think they were like £4 for £12 from an auto jumble he went to. But the other three are, I think the Division one is by my bed over there, and there's a couple somewhere. And then, of course, you've got the tidbits that are in the Pink Floyd The Wall Immersion Edition box set, but I just haven't got them out. But obviously, that's not a t-shirt. I guess I'd probably like a proper The Wall t-shirt, I guess. That hoodie comes quite close, but as I say, the material's not quite right. This was a video as much for my own sanity as anything else, to go, woo, look at my collection, but maybe I've got too many of these things. Something just a little bit different. I know other people have done this in the past, and it's something I thought, yeah, that's something I could do without much preparation, and some little stories about some of these t-shirts that you might enjoy. But if you've enjoyed this, leave a like. There's some much more, I can't really say, well, I can say serious and discussion type videos about albums, about artists that you can find on the channel. So if this is your first video on the channel, then there'll be something up there for you to go and watch that you might well be into, an artist that you might well be into. YouTube has chosen that, so hopefully it is. And you can also subscribe to the channel by hitting that button. I'm never very good at this. Here, somewhere, or just by that. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this look at my t-shirt collection. I'll see you in the next one.